You are listening to Real Girl Talk Podcast Radio. I am your host, Sherry. Each one of these episodes will provide you an opportunity to recognize, develop, and achieve all God has for you, bringing you incredible guests, faith-filled messages that will motivate you to reboot, regroup, and reinvent yourself in faith, business, and lifestyle abundance. Now let's level up, ladies, and let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to the show. I'm Sherry, and I want to talk to you guys today about action behind faith. Because it's one thing to pray about a situation, and that's good. We're supposed to do that. Prayer and belief with hope, that's all part of faith. But there's another step that I see so many people leaving out. You have to put action behind your faith. You must do something to show God that you're serious about what you believe in. Are you actually praying for God to get you out of a certain problem? God, get me out of this bad situation. God, give me a promotion. God, heal me. God, give me money. All those things are fine. But if you really want to get God's attention, if you want to see God move in amazing ways, you have to take one step further and do something to demonstrate your faith. In other words, let's just say you have an addiction. Are you actually going to a recovery program? Are you in a support group? That's faith. That's faith that God can see. Maybe you lost your job. I know a lot of people that have lost their positions in companies. A lot of companies have closed down. Do you actually have your resume done? Are you knocking on doors? Are you on LinkedIn? Are you on some of the sites to help promote your resume? Are you reaching out to people that can help you get a job? Maybe your spouse is just not treating you right. Are you treating them the same way, or are you treating them in a way that you want to be treated? That's what allows God to do extraordinary things. Now, I know people that are down and discouraged, and they pray, God, please get me out of this discouragement. Please get me out of this situation. God, please give me my joy back. God, give me a new beginning. It's good to pray. But what really causes God to act is when you get up again, dust yourself off, put your shoulders back and say, you know what? I'm not going to stay down. This is the day the Lord has made. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to have a great day. That's putting action behind your faith. Are you getting up? Are you journaling? Are you spending time with God? Are you doing anything to show God that you're even serious? God is concerned about our needs, but God is moved by our faith. When God sees you doing what you can do to get well, when he sees you getting to work a little earlier because you really want that promotion, when he sees you bypass the cookie jar because you believe that you really want to lose weight. Now get down to business. When he sees you bite your tongue to keep your peace in your house, when he sees you helping others, when you really need more help, he sees you out helping other people. And that's when God sees your faith. That's when extraordinary things will begin to happen. In the scripture, there was a young man. He was paralyzed. He couldn't walk. He just laid in his bed at home all day. One day, he heard that Jesus was in town at another house teaching people. He convinced 4 of his friends, you probably heard this story, to carry him in his bed over to that house. The problem was, when they got there, the place was packed. It was so crowded, they couldn't get in. They had to go above and beyond to get this man in there. I'm sure these 4 men were super exhausted. I'm sure their backs were killing them. Their arms were sore. They went all the way in, though. What really seemed to be a wasted time and what could have really been a disappointment, they actually could have easily given up, discouraged, but not this paralyzed man. He insisted. He was determined. I can see that his 4 friends wanted to just turn around and take him home. He says, nope. We're not going home just yet. I'm not leaving until I get my miracle. This man understood that you are closest to your victory when you're faced with your greatest opposition. And I'm going to say that again. This man understood that you are closest to your victory when you are faced with your greatest opposition. A lot of people would have given up because someone told them, no, you can't do that. You tried to get your degree, but it didn't work. You tried to get into college, but it was full. You tried to get a new house, but you couldn't get the loan. This is when you have to be determined that you have to have I will never say die attitude. If you can't get in the door, why don't you try a window? If you can't get in the window, why don't you try to be bold and go through the roof? And that's what this man did. Just don't quit trying. You are closest to your victory when you face your greatest opposition. He told his friends, look, I have an idea. Take me up to the roof, cut a hole in it, lower me down in the front row, right there in front of Jesus. Where there's a will, there's a way. Can you just imagine these 4 men listening saying, brother, we love you. You're our friend, but do you realize that there's not an elevator in this building? There are no stairs. How do you suppose that we get you up there? That's impossible. He said, nope, you've got to do it for me. He talked him into it. They finally hosted this man down from the roof. Jesus was in the middle of his sermon, and all of a sudden dust starts falling from the ceilings, people start looking around and thinking, what in the world is going on right now? A towel comes off and then another, and they lowered this paralyzed man in his bed all the way down. He's curled up, and they put him right at the foot of Jesus. This man was so determined. The scripture says Jesus saw their faith. That's my question for us today. Do you have faith that God can see? Are you doing something that's out of the ordinary to show God that you believe in him? It's not enough just to pray. It's not enough just to believe. But like this man, you have to do something to demonstrate your faith. Jesus looked at the man and he said, take up your bed and walk immediately. That's it. The man got up, this paralyzed man got up, picked up his bed. He went home, but it all started when he dared to do something where God could see his faith. Don't you know that there are other people in that room that weren't doing well, other people that had the same opportunity? What was the difference between them and this man? This man put action behind his faith. God is looking for people that have faith that he can see, not just faith that he can hear, not just faith that believes, but faith that is visible, a faith that can demonstrate action behind it. I heard a story about a man years ago when he was young. He knew God had called him to preach. He took a step of faith and he rented this small house, high school auditorium to have a meeting in. He invited his friends, his family, all these people to come. He even got the word out on the local community, newspaper. He was so excited that he was launching his new ministry, and the night had come. The event was rolling out and it was supposed to start at 7:00. Well, here it was 6:30 and no one was there. 6:45, no one. 6:55, no one. 7:00 came and still no one was in the seats. Just a sound man, a technician guy that was up in the sound booth. But this young guy was so heartbroken that he was ready to give up and he was ready to go home. But just before he called it quits, he felt something. I love this story. Something just rose up in him so strong, like a holy determination. I love that. You have to have holy determination. He said, you know what? I'm going to go out there and I'm going to go out there like a success. I'm not going to go out there like a failure. I've prepared my message already. I've already rented the auditorium. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to give it my best. We can just call it practice. So he went up to the platform, and in spite that nobody was even there, he preached like the place was full. He went on for an entire hour preaching his whole message that he had prepared. Like the auditorium was full of people. And at the very end, he gave an invitation, because it was part of his message, for people to come forward and receive Christ. He looked like he was just kind of going through the motions. And he told his story, how he felt like he was a total failure at that point. He felt kind of foolish for doing that. But just as he was finishing up that whole invitation, all of a sudden, a side door opened and walked in an older gentleman. He was part of the cleaning crew that was outside. This story makes me want to cry. He came down to the front and he shook the young minister's hand and he said, I want to make a decision for Christ tonight. He said it wasn't so much about his message, but it was the fact that you preached so joyful without one person in this room. So a few minutes later, the technician came down from the sound booth and he did the same exact thing. I want to make a decision for Christ. So that night, this young minister with all these hopes and dreams, he went home not feeling like a failure or foolish, but knowing that the hand of God was on his life. It was just like a turning point for him. After that, all kind of doors began to open for this young, aspiring minister. So today, he is a very successful minister. He has a church with thousands and thousands of people, goes all over the world. Friends, when God sees your faith, extraordinary things will begin to happen. One time in the scripture, there were 10 lepers that saw Jesus come into the city. They began to holler at Jesus, have mercy on us and make us whole. And Jesus could have just as easily healed them where they were, but he asked them to do something to express their faith. I found this so interesting in the Bible. He said, "Go show yourself to the priest and you will be made whole." And that was interesting. Those lepers were not supposed to be around other people. They had a contagious disease, right? They were considered unclean at that time, and they had to live in colonies all by themselves. But no. They dared to put action behind their faith because this is what Jesus told them to do. They said, you know what? We're going to take a step of faith. The scripture says, as they went, they were made whole. In other words, if they had not had the courage to demonstrate their faith, they would have never seen God's goodness as they started down the road. So by the time they got to the priest, their skin was perfectly normal. But a lot of times we want God to heal us first, and then we'll go. God, give me the big crowd, and then I'll preach. God, make me whole, and then I'll start this thing. Then I'll launch my ministry. Then I will go out and treat my husband better when he starts to treat me better. Then I will start treating him better. God, let me lose weight. And then I'll start to cut back a little bit. God, give me the crowd. Give me the followers on social media. And then I'll start being an influencer. Then I'll sign up for Amazon affiliate. Then I'll start doing this digital marketing. But God says you have to go first. You have to show me your faith, and then I'll give you exactly what you need. Friends, God has to see your faith, but can he see it? The scripture says faith without actions, backing it up, is dead. It's an amazing statement. It's saying that we cannot have dead faith. And I know people that love God. They're really, really good people, but they're not living the abundant life that God has intended for them. They're not overcoming their obstacles. They're not accomplishing their God-given dreams. So why is that? Because their faith is dead. They're not putting actions behind it. So if you're not activating God's power, it doesn't mean that he doesn't have something big for you. So when you go to work every day, are you giving it 100%? Are you demonstrating your faith? Sometimes you just have to put a smile on your face when you feel discouraged. That's putting action behind your faith. Just the fact that you decided to listen to this podcast today, that is faith that God can see. But you took time to honor God. You took time to listen to his word. God saw you tune in. He sees you listening. He sees you taking this time to fill up your spiritual tank. Right now, you're putting action behind your faith that tells me your faith is not dead. Your faith is alive. Your faith is activating God's power. Your faith is allowing God to fight your battles for you. Your faith is opening the door for extraordinary. Ladies, do you have the faith that God can see? Are you putting action behind what you believe in? Remember, it's not enough just to pray, not enough just to believe. Take one step further and do something to demonstrate your faith. You may not see how it's ever going to happen. You may not know how you're going to buy that house. You don't have the funds. Maybe your credit is, poop right now, whatever it is. But just like those leapers, you have to take a step of faith. God will begin to open up the right doors. You will have the strength to do what you couldn't do before. Trust me on this. I have so many times had to put action behind my faith when I absolutely saw no way possible. And some of you have a dream, just like I've had dreams. And I have dreams now that you've been praying for a long time. You have promises that you've been standing on for many, many years. And that's great. But right now is the time to take that next level up and do something to demonstrate your faith. Do something out of the ordinary to show God you're serious about accomplishing your dreams. And if you will learn to put actions behind your faith, and God's going to show up and he's going to show out in the most unusual ways that you never expected. I just believe, and I'm going to declare right now that you are overcoming every obstacle in your life. You are defeating every enemy, and you are going to see every dream and every promise that God put in your heart come to pass. I want you to please help us continue to share Real Girl Talk Show with women all over the world. You can visit realgirltalkpodcast.com. Follow us on social media at Real Girl Talk Podcast. Thanks so much for listening today, and I hope you subscribe so you can receive the latest podcast to keep you inspired all through the week. And I'm praying for you, and until next time, God bless.